So getting ready to do some trading for the morning, of course, checking out the numbers. And I would say this is pretty fucked up if they're trying to propose this. Like the vaccine, of course, has not been tested, not under any long term. So when you hear of the vaccines, for people who don't know, right? So when they talk about the efficacy of being 90 plus, 95% efficacy, it's important to understand that normally when you get your blood drawn, right? So you get your blood drawn to check to see if you have titers, to see if you have antibodies for the virus. That's typically done like for long term immunity. You want to do at least 3 months, right? So you at least want to do 3 to 4 months. And when you read the information that came out from all of these vaccine companies, especially the one from Moderna, which is the one that is always being pushed, they drew labs 7 days afterwards, right? That showed, and you have to read it. Like it's all fuckery that's going on, right? But I think this is what's really messed up. It says, would you be willing to get a COVID vaccine in exchange for 1,500 stimulus check? How one bold proposal would work, and I have no doubt. Again, the narrative that no one is going to come out, right? No one from government is going to come out and just say this is all bullshit, right? The narrative has to go away somehow, but they can't straightforwardly come out and say all this is bullshit, right? So the way that they have to do it is to have to force enough people to take the vaccine so that the news media will stop reporting. Because if they just stop reporting, then everybody's going to realize that it was all bullshit, and then there's no way that the people will have faith in anything that politicians, etc., say. So this literally is the dragon that must be slayed, right? And that's why you hear like places in the UK, where in the UK said, the government said, well, if you don't want lockdowns, you gotta take that vaccine. That's literally what they straightforwardly said. They said, hey, if you don't like lockdowns, then you need to take the vaccine. And this is how they force people. They force business owners. You already seen where the airlines, what's it called? Where they have like the outlets for, like, if you want to go to a concert or thing like those type of venues. I think the football venues were already saying you either have to have a negative test or have access to the vaccine. I have no doubt they'll eventually phase out the test, and they'll say that the tests, because the tests aren't 100% accurate, whereas the vaccine will save you. There's some bullshit, man. And yeah, I have no doubt that they're gonna keep on pushing. It's slowly gonna keep on creeping in, where the vaccine, take the vaccine rhetoric is going to grow in intensity over the next couple of weeks, especially if Trump's campaign, with all the voter fraud that they've been showing, if he doesn't get in, more than likely, especially with Joe Biden, they will definitely push this sort of rhetoric harder moving forward. We already see it here in New York, right? We already see it here in New York and California, constant lockdowns of the people. And then whenever anybody breaks, like when the Hasidic Jews over here, they just crack down, right? It's just law enforcement comes in. The people that you think that are there to back you, right? The whole back to blue bullshit. These are the same people that come and they knock on your doors and like, hey, how many people you got in there? How many people showed up for Thanksgiving, right? Got to stop back in the blue. That's why it's important, so important to have the First and Second Amendment is exactly for stuff like this. When you can't defend yourself, when the state has all the guns, there's nothing you can do except comply. How many days do you think that people will just go out there and go out and create lawlessness, right? Eventually they'll just bring in martial law eventually. And then what are you going to do? You have no way of defending yourself. And this is why it's so important to pay attention to what's going on, because this stuff slowly creeps in. They just talk about it. They just kind of hint at it, and then they move it a little bit forward. They propose it to business owners. You might find yourself at your job coming in one by one into your employer's office, and them asking you on the spot, "Are you going to take the vaccine?" And then look for some sort of loophole of why they're going to let you go, or why they're going to fire you, right? Maybe you showed up late, and they'll just use that rhetoric. Maybe you got into an argument with someone, they'll just use that sort of rhetoric to cut you loose. And this is terrible when we've seen, like, if you've done, I showed in my video on where in California it was like over $100 million of stimulus that was supposed to go to the people, and that went to literally people who were in jails on death row. And it's disgusting to see where you're seeing both the mainstream media and, of course, the local governments that are basically working in tandem with each other to try to push people to take the vaccine, because they have to slay the beast. There's no way around it. They have to find a way to get rid of the virus so that the mainstream media will just stop reporting cases, because they can't just stop reporting cases without anything drastic, right? That's why Joe Biden is basically talking about the 100 days, 100 days wear a mask. It's all an excuse to get the mainstream media, because they work together. There has to be a narrative. The narrative has to be in sync. They just can't come out the next day and be like, yeah, this was all bullshit. All those PCR tests, all those rapid tests that we were utilizing were all broken. They're not going to come out and say that, because they've already instilled so much fear in the people. Look what happened here in New York, right? Cuomo put so much fear into people about taking the vaccine because it was under Donald Trump's administration. And then now New Yorkers are like, well, wait a minute, you just told us not to take it because it's suspect. And then now you're telling us to take it. And now you're getting upset because most New Yorkers don't want to take it. This is the sort of bullshit that's going on.